تكنولوجي نحنا زبحل نيرو چاينا لومي تاعتون
بميازيا 2013 استولع كوينات حد السودان نمفتح فتنتات كايدو كان تصنحه زاغيت ايسلطن سلامنتاي
حزب ኢትዮጵያ بزي قارص ውሽጣዊ ግጭታት ቅሳነት አይረከበን አብርሲዩ አብሞንጎ ሶማልን ኢትዮጵያን በጉዳይ ሶማሊላንድ ተፈጥረ ወጥሪ ስክፍታ ፈጥይሩሎ ገለ ወገናት ወይ ሚዲያታት ከአ ነቲ አብሞንጎ ኤርትራን ግብፅን ሶማሊያን استخايد سلوساو ርክብ አንጻር ኢትዮጵያ አምሲሎም ከቅርቡ ወይ ፍትኒዮሞ ብዛዕባ ዝንታይ ትብል
حاليوتن إثيوبيا دي خاتمص دلها ولا خاتطاقوس خدل دلها سلستي إنك تأكيبا حج خمزيلن تماخيرن الله إلكا ناتكا تنتانيتات نامصخا ديستورشنز نحوسكا تفلالي تنتانيتات يبهاليو سيلومو نابلكا نامصخا مملسكا خاتطاقوسيو قال إعلامه يلن
Global and geopolitical analysis. Highlights of President Issias Afwerki's interview with local media outlets. On the implications and ramifications of the election of President Donald Trump to the global order. President Issias underlined that policy forecasts and analysis must be predicated on the wider framework of global and geopolitical realities that have unfolded in the past 3 decades. In this perspective, President Trump's signature policy stance of MAGA, Make America Great Again, contains an implicit recognition that the US is not the dominant power, in terms of key economic, military, technological and influence, soft power parameters, as envisaged by the architects of a unipolar world order whose hallmark was unassailable and overbearing US dominance in all the determinant parameters and manifestations of power. US containment policies, primarily geared towards China due to its rising preeminence in the economic and technological domains and growing international influence as well as against Russia, have not evidently achieved their pronounced objectives. It is doubtful now whether envisaged protectionist policies will reverse the trend. The aspiration of the vast majority of the world's peoples is for a new international order based on justice and that promotes fairness and the collective well-being of humanity. Not architectures of confrontation under the rubric of bipolarity or multipolarity. Within this broad framework, and as one cannot throw the dice to decipher, at this early stage, or map out all the possible scenarios on how the policy of the Trump administration will ultimately pan out, it would be inappropriate to make premature conclusions, and while doing our homework, we must strive to foster constructive engagement with an open mind. On the conflict in the Sudan. President Issias underlined Sudan's pivotal regional status as well as its historical ties with Eritrea that goes back to the period of the liberation struggle. Religious agendas coupled with external meddling precipitated cyclical crises in the country, culminating in the spontaneous rebellion of 2019. While the solution to the conflict in the Sudan naturally rests with, and remains the sovereign prerogative of the Sudanese people, this cannot inhibit us from making modest contributions due to our historical ties and overarching policy of promoting a stable and safe neighborhood. In this spirit, Eritrea had originally submitted its non-controversial and widely accepted proposal in mid-2022. The broad outlines of the proposal essentially envisaged entrusting the transition to the Sovereign Council, which had in fact earned the mandate if only by default, and which would act as a bridge to a safe path to ensure that the situation does not spin out of control. This would also preclude potentially dangerous rivalries among fractious traditional political parties and groups. President Issias further stressed that the war, which had no rationale in the first place and that has been fueled by external intervention, must come to an immediate end. External interventions and the proliferation of initiatives which essentially exacerbate the tragic situation must also come to an end. Efforts must be directed towards cultivating consensus in the region. On the tripartite Eritrea, Egypt and Somalia summit. President Issias alluded to the intensive distortion and disinformation campaigns peddled in mainstream and social media on the event by external powers, pundits bent on stoking conflict in the region. These did not emanate from genuine concern for Ethiopia. The scheme involved deliberately ignoring or glossing over the true and positive dimensions of the tripartite summit for cultivating consensus for enduring regional stability. Eritrea's core interests and attendant constant policies are predicated on fostering and pursuing an agenda of promoting stability, cooperation and complementarity in the wider Horn of Africa, Nile Basin and Red Sea neighborhood. Eritrea has indeed no interest whatsoever to destabilize Ethiopia. Mutual consultations pursued at various levels among the countries of the wider neighborhood will dispel mistrust and create conducive climate for positive and fruitful interaction among the constituent parties. On the situation in Ethiopia and divisions within TPLF leadership, President Issias underlined that focus on isolated current episodes and trends outside the underlying political framework will not be fruitful. The primary cause of the periodic tension and conflicts in Ethiopia as well as with its neighbors is the institutionalized policy of ethnic polarization enshrined in the Constitution of 1994. This is a recipe for perpetual tension and cannot certainly promote nation building. And if Ethiopia is not at peace with itself, it cannot contribute positively to regional stability, cooperation and complementarity. The border war between Eritrea and Ethiopia in 1998 on a presumed dispute in Badme etc. was, in essence, a byproduct or fallout of this misguided policy. The sanctity of inherited boundaries in Africa is not indeed controversial. The other dimension is, of course, external meddling which, in the case of the border war, continued to compound the problem even after the matter was settled through final and binding arbitration. The war that erupted after the installation of a new federal government with a pronounced policy of reform must also be seen within the same context. The TPLF rejected the reform agenda and opted for war which included attacking more than 70 targets in Eritrea with long-range rockets. Our pleas for them to refrain from unleashing this reckless war came to no avail. And even after the Pretoria Agreement, we have seen a new round of conflicts in the Amhara region. Without going into extensive details, we have no interest in digressing into acrimonious allegations. Our primary preoccupation has always been to prevent and avoid costly wars. In this spirit, we will not lose hope and we have to work for and foster stability, cooperation and complementarity in the region. Also because, these problems essentially emanate from and serve external agendas. On domestic developmental programs. President Issias elaborated in greater detail GOE's developmental priorities as well as blueprints and operational plans in the critical sectors of water infrastructure, energy, housing, road transport, and investment for 2025. In water infrastructure, President Issias described the extensive, nationwide, water conservation programs that have been implemented in the past years that include big dams with 330 million cubic meters as well as extensive network of smaller dams and water reservoirs. These were accompanied by rigorous reforestation programs. Operational plans for 2025 and beyond include expansion of irrigation schemes. In energy, GOE's approach revolved around installation of thermal, solar, wind as well as geothermal hybrid systems. Construction companies will be restructured for better implementation of new housing schemes. Similarly, the government will invest in procurement of buses which will serve, especially depraved areas, at subsidized prices. The government will also redouble its efforts to revitalize the manufacturing sector geared on value addition. In investment, the GOE will encourage private local investment and especially from the diaspora, who may have better financial capabilities, not only in traditional hospitality sector but also in agriculture, manufacturing, mining, etc. Question: what does President Issias Afwerki say about the implications of President Donald Trump's election on the global order? Answer: President Issias highlighted the following. Global context. Any analysis of Trump's election and policies must consider the broader global trends over the past 30 years. The unipolar world order, marked by US dominance in economics, military, and technology, has been in decline. MAGA recognition. Trump's "Make America Great Again" MAGA slogan indirectly admits that the US is no longer the dominant global power as envisioned by the architects of the unipolar system. Failed containment policies, the US's efforts to counter China's rise in the economic and technological spheres, and to limit Russia's influence, have not met their objectives. Protectionism doubts, Trump's protectionist policies are unlikely to reverse the US's declining global influence. Global aspirations, the majority of the world seeks a fair international order based on justice and collective well-being, not confrontation rooted in bipolar or multipolar rivalries. Open-minded engagement. While it is premature to predict the Trump administration's policy outcomes, Eritrea stresses the importance of keeping an open mind and fostering constructive engagement with all global actors. What he means, President Issias views Trump's presidency as a symptom of the shifting global balance of power. He believes the US is no longer unchallenged and that the world should work toward an equitable and cooperative international order rather than power-based rivalries. Question: what are President Issias' views on the conflict in Sudan? Answer: President Issias emphasized Sudan's importance. Sudan holds a pivotal role in the region and shares deep historical ties with Eritrea, dating back to Eritrea's liberation struggle. Roots of conflict. Sudan's crisis stems from religious agendas and external meddling, culminating in the 2019 uprising. Eritrea's proposal. In 2022, Eritrea proposed a widely accepted solution that entrusted Sudan's transitional process to the Sovereign Council. This approach aimed to stabilize Sudan by preventing rivalries among traditional political parties. External meddling. The conflict has been fueled by external interventions, worsening Sudan's situation. President Issias stressed the need to end these interventions and focus on regional consensus. Immediate end to war. He called for an end to the senseless war and emphasized that the solution must come from the Sudanese people, though Eritrea will continue to offer support to ensure stability. What he means, Eritrea sees Sudan's stability as crucial for the region. Its efforts are aimed at supporting Sudanese sovereignty while preventing external powers from exacerbating the conflict. Question: what did President Issias say about the tripartite Eritrea, Egypt, and Somalia summit? Answer: President Issias addressed misconceptions about the summit. Disinformation campaigns. External powers and pundits spread misinformation to stoke conflict in the region, falsely suggesting the summit undermined Ethiopia. True purpose. The summit aimed to foster regional stability, cooperation, and complementarity in the Horn of Africa, the Nile Basin, and the Red Sea regions. Eritrea's policies. Eritrea's core interest is stability and collaboration, not destabilization. Mutual trust. By enhancing dialogue and consultation, Eritrea seeks to dispel mistrust and create a positive climate for regional cooperation. What he means, the summit was misrepresented by outside forces seeking to create divisions. Eritrea's focus remains on fostering trust, dialogue, and long-term stability in the region. Question: what are President Issias' views on Ethiopia's internal conflicts and divisions within the TPLF? Answer: President Issias offered a broad perspective. Ethnic polarization. Ethiopia's 1994 constitution institutionalized ethnic divisions, creating a foundation for ongoing tensions and conflicts both within Ethiopia and with its neighbors. Impact on Eritrea. The 1998 border war, particularly over Badme, was a consequence of this flawed system. While final arbitration resolved the issue, external interference prolonged tensions. TPLF rejection of reforms. After Ethiopia's federal government adopted reform policies, the TPLF rejected these changes and chose to wage war, even attacking 70 targets in Eritrea with long-range rockets. Post-Pretoria Agreement. Despite the Pretoria Peace Agreement, new conflicts arose in Ethiopia, particularly in the Amhara region. Eritrea's focus. Eritrea has consistently worked to prevent costly wars, avoid acrimonious disputes, and foster stability and regional cooperation. External agendas. Many of these issues are exacerbated by external actors pursuing their own interests in Ethiopia's instability. What he means. Ethiopia's ethnic-based governance model is the root cause of instability. Eritrea supports reforms and peace efforts, while recognizing that external interference complicates these challenges. Question: what are Eritrea's domestic developmental priorities for 2025 and beyond? Answer: President Issias detailed Eritrea's long-term development plans. 1. Water infrastructure. Nationwide water conservation programs, including large dams, 330 million cubic meters capacity, and smaller reservoirs. Expansion of irrigation schemes to boost agriculture. 2. Energy. Hybrid energy systems combining thermal, solar, wind, and geothermal power. 3. Housing. Restructuring construction companies to efficiently implement new housing projects. 4. Transportation. Procuring buses to serve underserved areas at subsidized prices. 5. Manufacturing. Revitalizing industries focused on value-added production. 6. Investment. Encouraging private local and diaspora investment in agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and hospitality sectors. What he means. Eritrea's development strategy focuses on building self-reliance and sustainable infrastructure, with particular emphasis on energy, housing, and attracting investment to key sectors. Question. What overarching themes did President Issias emphasize across all topics? Answer. Self-reliance. Both in domestic development and regional diplomacy, Eritrea prioritizes independence and self-determination. Regional stability. Eritrea's core policies center on fostering cooperation and stability in the Horn of Africa and beyond. Justice and fairness. Globally, Eritrea advocates for a just and equitable international order, rejecting unipolar or confrontational models. Constructive engagement. Eritrea emphasizes the importance of dialogue and consensus building to address regional and global challenges.
Technology نحنا ዝባሃል ነይሩ ቻይና ሎሚ ኣብ ተኣትሎ ምናልባት ኣብ ተፈለማ ኣበጋግሳ ናይዚ እንኮ ቆፅራዊ ዓለማዊ ስርዓት ሩስያ ትበሃል ዝነበረ ሩስያ ንገዛ ርእሱ ብስፍሓት ናይ ጂኦግራፍ ጥራይ ዘይኮነ ቴክኖሎጂ ነይርዋ ቁጠባ ኣለዋ ኣብቲ እዋንቲ ከም ስግኣት ክትቁፀር መኽኣላ ባህርያዊ ነይሩ ግን ሕጂ ኣብ ከምኡ የለን
ዞባዊ ጉዳያት ክንመጽና ክቡር ፕሬዝዳንት ኣብ ሚያዝያ 2023 ዝተወልዐ ኩናት ሓድሕድ ሱዳን ንምፍታሕ ፈተነታት ክካየድ እኳ እንተጸንሐ ዛጊት ኣይሰለጠን ስለምንታይ ኣብ ሰሙን እዚ ናይ ዝተኻየደ ናይ ሓደ መዓልቲ ናይ ስራሕ ዑደት ጀነራል አልቡርሃን ናብ ኤርትራ ኣብ ግምት ብምእታው መሰረታዊ ፍታሕ ክርከቦ ግደ ፖለቲካዊ ሓይልታት ህዝብን ሱዳን ከምኡውን ኣህጉራዊ ማሕበረሰብ እንታይ ክኸውን ኣሎ
ቅድሚ 2 ዓመት ዘቕረብናዮ ቅድሚ 3 ዓመት ዘቕረብናዮ ሓሳብ ሓድሽ ነገር ኣለዎ ወይ ንሕና በላሕቲ ኮይና ካብ ካልኦት ዝያዳ ፈላጣት ኮይና ከምዝን ኣቕሪብና ኢልና ንዛረበሉ ዘይኮነ ብታሪክ ብግብሪ ኣብ ህይወትና ኣብ ህይወት ሃገርናን ተማሃርናዮ ነገር ስለ ዝኾነ ኣዳውና ጣሚርና ካኣቶም ክልብል ወይ ስለዘይ ንኽእል ከምዚኦም ዝኣመሰሉ ተበግሶታት ምውሳድ ኣነ እዋናውን ቁኑዕን ይባሃለ
ክቡር ፕሬዝዳንት ህዝቢ ኢትዮጵያ ብዘይቋርጽ ውሽጣዊ ግጭታት ቅሳነት ኣይረኸበን ኣብ ርእሲኡ ኣብ መንጎ ሶማልን ኢትዮጵያን ብጉዳይ ሶማሊላንድ ዝተፈጥረ ወጥሪ ስክፍታ ፈጢሩሎ ገለ ወገናት ወይ ሚድያታት ከዓ ነቲ ኣብ መንጎ ኤርትራን ግብፅን ሶማልያን ዝተኻየደ ስሉሳዊ ርክብ ኣንጻር ኢትዮጵያ ኣምሲሎም ከቕርቡ ወይ ፍትንዮም እሞ ብዛዕባ እዚ እንታይ ትብል
ሓልዮትን ኢትዮጵያ ዲኻ ተምፅእ ዘለኻ ወላ ከተጣቑስ ኢኻ ትደሊ ዘለኻ ሰለስቲአን ከዓ ተኣኪበን ሕጂ ከምዚ ኢለን ተማኺረን ኣለዋ ኢልካ ናትካ ትንታኔታት እናምፀኻ ዲስቶርሽንስ እናሓወስካ ተፈላለየ ትንታኔታት ይበሃል እዩ ሲኢሎም እሞ እናበልካ እናምፀኻ መመሊስካ ከተጣቑስ እዮ ካልእ ዕላማ የለን እዚ ሓደ ኣመት እዩ ወይ ምልክት ናይ ደገ ኣጀንዳታት እዩ ናይ ባሕቂ ቅዱስ ሰብ መፂኡ ነዚ ከንብቦ እንድሕር ኮይኑ ናብ ከምዚ ዝኣመሰለ መደምደምታ መኸደ ኢልካ ትሓስብ ኣንጻር ኢትዮጵያ ዝቐንዐ እዩ ግብፅን ሶማልን ኤርትራን ኮይነን ብሓንሳብ ኣንጻር ኢትዮጵያ ክሰርሓ ተሰብን ኣይነይቲ ኢትዮጵያ እንታይ ኢኻ ትብል ዘለኻ ኢልካ ክሓትት ዝኽእል ሰብ ስለዘየለ ከም ንቡር ተወሲዱ ተባሂሉ በዚ ተገሊፁ ከምዚ ተባሂሉ ንኡ ክፍሕሱ ዝውዕሉ ኣለዉ ኣብኡ ዓበይቲ ባጀላታት ዘለዎም ፈሊጣት ኣለዉ ንዕን እዮም ክፍሕስዎም ዝውዕሉ ዘሎ ንምክቶ ተጻብኦ እንድሕር ኣልዩ ከዓ እቲ ናይ ደገ ኣጀንዳታት أوش إثيوبيا خمسة خونا له كلا خمسيلو كلا خمسي بلن أكون أنتظر حتى سلازي حزبنا دلوا نقحات أبزوبا دلوا نقحات انتهى نزين كم زين أمثل شجرات من ملسو زجاوحن زحلال خم دلنا دحرته وحيلو نايدق داو نزيد داو زخ مكتل لنا مكيتنا هنا ندحر حجون نزاني له مخنيات لنا كن مكتينا زعوا بإثيوبيا دلوا خناتات مزراب جن حدش عرست عجيز اللي على سلدي إلا نا 5 عامات عرستات سلدي لنا نو أبطو أغميتنا نبي تبلي حيز بعض بلاد الله يتملسي عندنا إذا كم زيون دا مصلو شجرات والناس حتى تجن نايتمالنا بريتوريا هون نايكم بريتوريا ما نامسوا هم يجروا ما نامسوا أبو تصورنا نجار سلدي إلا نظام صلاجاتهم كل مكتوم كأحدش أرسس لديك وأنا نعوم مكاتي مساعد لنا كاب كل تشحن عسران حمشتن ندحر كا زنا ختزي إعلامنا أبكال زيد لنا وقلنا وخينا طينا أتونينا نقولهم دقاقيد اللوخ عدوا عنهم
نخل تشحن عسران حمشتن زتتحزي أما مسرح زصانحن زغطلن يكون حدش مدبات حقراو لمعات بزملكات استسألوا مدبات أينوتيو
نومبر مالليت تسنكت كاس داغماي نومبر ود بشاشا تقلبيت كات بس الوعالو الكالو يا كل بالحزب تقراي شعو امبيل كان كلها صنصيا عين حزب تقراي زنفر انتمصيو حب عصملو بتبريخ كمتي ود بشاشا بركم السعمت كم منغاغا حرقت زمزحوا مدحن ود صام عيم زبلخ حقهم ايداب قاتالو
ابس مرايخون او خالوت نا إرترا كبابات مرصات علامات موقع كنقصدينا مالتي
انت تግራይ ዘሎ አጽዋር ኣብ ልዕሊ ከነፍሰን ይብል
ሰራዊት ህደፍ ማለትካ ኳናይ ኳና ትፈልጥሩ
እዚ ቃላትካ ወዝብዳ አሎሚ ከመይልና በዚህና አጽፋርካ ዝንቀል እንክልዓል ስምና ዜል ደአሞ ይሉ ዶ ኮይኑ ዶስትማል ቀደሚው ሎም ጽባህ ኮይኑ روكيت كان تشاچهنا قفونا نقنقو حشكت لهندبت من سيدو خد صحي فليو دوس كان مقابر فانتسنا وطينا نشيم بعلنا كاهن طيلنا نشمم بعلنا ويستمليسنا بتر موسي جيرنا بحر تقبلنا باف تولدنا باف تقبرنا ابتن حكم غيركم مو مهصنا حنساب بسرو كارتات سؤلنا حنساب بسرو كاب كارتات وصنا بسلاماي كستاناي نقع مسابنا وطن بفينس فرصة كتقلس تفتنا نساون مويتا تتأميرنا بعلنا فقط مخفات يلن كم اوينا نحنا نعوطا السيطان تتشكيل خاوتو عرف لنا لنا
ابس مرايخون او خالوت
سلام معديو مستراريو مشتامر ميروس أنا وصليروس أب حدا درك قدام مستنكر حقنا ترجم ولاديت هاجر فتحي صلاة تكسر نزيوناتا رايوناتو نايسب زي اللي زي خبناتو شويتوي سلغي تبجوب بوتاي ماماي لم شويتوي سلغي تبجوب بوتاي سب زي دلي زي خبناتو ما نحيلو نمانك منزع ما نقششو نمانك منزع لسان تاريخ الله مننتنا بزوح زيدلي زي خدماتو زي خدماتو
شير لايك سبسكرايب بمباراة رسعو. Thank you.